How we do this, we are the truest. Got these fangs super sharp, your shit toothless. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish. In the graveyard, acting foolish. Finna dance with the devil to no music. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish.
Hello, this is Michael Paul Gonzalez, a host, not the host. That's Max Booth the Third. He's not here. I killed him. Okay, that last part was a joke. He's still breathing. For now. Okay, you might have heard that Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing has recently released my newest novel, Beneath the Salton Sea. Max likes it. You should like it too. What you're about to hear is a companion piece, a podcast that is in-universe, as the kids like to say these days. Learn some stuff about one of the wildest places in Southern California. And if you're so inclined, pick up a copy of Beneath the Salton Sea, wherever you buy books, but preferably at perpetualpublishing.com, because they're really cool, and you should support them. Thanks.
Hey, did you see this one? Yeah, no kidding. I know how stairs work. Thing looks like it wouldn't support a bird. I'm not walking up there. Yeah. You will hear their voices when you try to sleep. It's creepy, right? Hey, watch out. I think there's some bees over there or something. Just, yeah.
I was wondering.
What you're listening to is unedited audio from the night two women explored abandoned ruins at the Salton Sea. The voice you're hearing belongs to Dee Bolan. She went to Bombay Beach, a little enclave on the shore of the Salton Sea, with her wife, Sharon. They're in a tiny, dilapidated house near the dirt wall separating the community from the sea. If you open Google Maps, drop into Street View in Bombay Beach on 5th Street between Avenue E and Avenue D, and you'll see it. So this conversation is unaltered. Dee and Sharon were looking at the graffiti inside one of the many houses. Again, this audio has not been manipulated.
Wait, look at this one. Under the poster. Right? Like, we should definitely go check out the North Shore. We have to now, right?
Now, my hope is that you only heard one side of that conversation, Dee's. They spent the rest of the afternoon wandering the area. The night that followed was hell. There are accounts that suggest these two women experienced a supernatural event that changed them both forever. There are others who suggest the women lied. The debate about what happened might never truly be settled, but what's not disputed is that they almost died. Was this a drug trip gone bad? A complete fabrication? Or did these women truly experience a phenomenon that defies description? We started this podcast because we want answers. This is Slab City Skies. We created this podcast to investigate the rumors, lore, and mystery surrounding the Salton Sea, because believe it or not, this isn't the first time something like this has happened. I'm your host, Derek Lloyd, and with me is our resident Salton Sea expert, hailing from East Jesus, just outside of Mecca. It's your man, the Stargazer. How's the weather by the Salton Sea today?
It's hot, it's dry, it's the desert, and I don't care, because I don't live there anymore.
Listeners, you should know that Stargazer...
Not my real name.
No kidding. He spent the better part of a decade living by the Salton Sea, experiencing everything there is to see.
And somehow survived and came back without a drug problem.
So, do you want to fill our listeners in on your name?
Let's just say that my professional opportunities have improved since moving to L.A., and I don't want anything I reveal here to get back to my present employers. So we'll just go with the name given me while I live there.
And that should give you a hint of the community we're going to talk about. Me, I'm just a guy who's been obsessed since I saw the first news report about Dee and Sharon. I wanted to learn everything I could about their case, and that led me to discovering that there are other Salton Sea stories. We're going to get into the history of the area and how it all connects to these two unfortunate women, but let's start with that audio. Now, this is something you've experienced as well, right?
Sort of. Prepare to find your new favorite hobby. There are hours and hours of recordings from the Salton Sea, some made by explorers like us, but there are also historical recordings, found audio, and recordings that just appear, for lack of a better word. Some people find stations between stations on the radio where they briefly hear conversations between people from a different era. Some people have gone out with MP3 players and reported entire track listings getting changed or deleted.
But the best ones are what we call unreal reel recordings. So in Dee and Sharon's case, this audio was recovered from a pocket MP3 recorder that Dee was carrying with her throughout the trip. It's one of the rare examples of this phenomenon happening between people. Sort of like EVP, right?
Electric voice phenomenon, exactly.
So is the sea known as a hotbed for EVP?
No, but it should be.
Well, yeah, let's get into what might be causing that. So if you're not from Southern California, it's likely that the only time you've heard the name of the Salton Sea is the 2002 feature film of the same name starring Val Kilmer.
Honestly, the movie doesn't do the area justice. Doesn't even scratch the weirdness.
And you would know.
Got the tetanus shots to prove it. But that movie enticed me to check the area out. It turned out to be a great place to escape society. And if you love exploring abandoned buildings, seeing art everywhere, living where nobody's going to bug you, and you got to check it out. But I started to hear about things, right?
Like the infamous crack in the sky. We are definitely coming back to that, but I think it's important to know about the area first. So let's start with a quick history of the Salton Sea.
The sea, for millennia, has existed, and then it hasn't. Short version, the Colorado River has changed course and shapes over hundreds of thousands of years, sometimes emptying into the Gulf of Mexico, and sometimes aiming at a great basin in Southern California.
A basin that is 227 feet below sea level. A sea beneath the sea.
There are early historical records of the area being called the Colorado Desert or the Valley of the Ancient Lake. 1905, due to some haphazard canal building, the Colorado River broke its walls and flowed steadily into the basin, filling the area until it became the Salton Sea that we know today.
But not the Salton Sea it had been in the past. Every time the waters come back, it's a different sea.
Ship of Theseus, right?
Sort of?
Anyway, it's deep like a radar dish specifically designed to pick up weird shit. Like, think of Area 51, a remote area in Nevada where the government has hidden evidence of aliens and secret aircraft, secret weapons, and other clandestine things. There's an area by the Salton Sea called Slab City that's, think smaller but stranger. My belief is that the government focused on this area precisely because it's ebb and flow and endless change.
So over millennia, the sea has appeared, disappeared, and come again. Not overnight, obviously. I mean, there's evidence of shifting water patterns, river migration, you get it.
But what you won't read about are dirt roads that are only visible when it's raining at night. Trucks, trailers, even people that are just there one day and gone the next. And I'm talking like, you remember talking to them, doing things with them, but no one else knows what you're talking about. There's something in this basin that reveals itself to whoever it wants, whenever it wants.
Early settlers talked about nights that the stars would wink out of existence, when the sky would turn the color of red clay hours before sunrise.
The voices come when the stars fall.
Yeah, we will get to that creepy phase in a bit. So first, let's get into the Salton Sea's current incarnation, born in the 1900s, and how Slab City and the military plays into all of this. The sea, it's about 35 by 15 miles. Pretty big, a boon to local farmers who set up nearby and use that newly redirected water to feed crops, while letting the excess continue to flow into the basin. So in the 50s and 60s, the waters were shining and the Salton Sea enjoyed a brief era of prosperity, becoming known as the Riviera of the California desert. Resorts popped up. It was a hub for family beach getaways, boating, fishing, you name it.
And it remained a paradise oasis to this day.
Really?
No, it's hot, oppressive, and smells like dead fish and rotten eggs.
There it is.
Yeah, see, this version of the sea shouldn't exist. The water has always come and gone based on the natural flow of the Colorado. This incarnation happened because men tried to divert the Colorado River and in doing so, upset the cycle of the waters. You can't believe that this was a matter of nature, a canal burst and water finds its own level. But what if, like, metaphysically, this was a spider building its web?
The canal project that collapsed was gradually fixed over the years, cutting off one of the Salton Sea's freshwater supplies.
Scientifically speaking, the resort building and tourist trap stuff was what experts call the fuck around moment. And as early as the 1940s and 50s, scientists were warning that the find out moment wasn't far behind.
Indeed. Experts knew the sea was going to eventually disappear. You've got pesticides and farming fertilizer runoff, endless heat from the desert sun, salinity rising, water level shrinking. First come massive fish die-offs, and that means less food for birds and wildlife. And more dead animals means more dead animal smells. And the shores of the Salton Sea, which were once golden and sandy, are white with the pulverized bones of thousands and thousands of dead fish. So, resorts disappeared, people stopped coming.
But something else stayed, something that's always been there. Spiders and webs, like I said, there's something about this area. The locals know it. Not the ones who would talk to tourists, but if you become part of their community, you'd hear whispers of the Anzo Borrega lights, the shifting winds, the cold domes, the crack in the sky, the people who come and never leave or leave and come back changed.
So let's talk about Slab City. Just past Salvation Mountain, where they say the sky cracked open above the Salton Sea. Why did the military build here?
Stay with me on this one. There are Native American tribes who have built monuments and complex structures in places they consider sacred. They choose to build in those spots because the land was already sacred. So I think the basin is kind of the opposite of that. Not cursed, but definitely unnatural. One of those places Stephen King would call a thin spot.
Enter the U.S. government. Slab City, the Slabs. Lots of different names for it, but before it became an RV camp that evolved into an isolated community, it was a military facility.
In 1942, before the Salton Sea became a resort destination, Camp Dunlap was established as a training facility for anti-aircraft and artillery units by the Marine Corps. Then in 1951, the Marines sold the land to the U.S. Navy, and in 1961, the land was returned to the state of California. The Navy basically took everything they could and left the concrete foundations of the buildings, hence Slab City.
And if the state didn't care enough about the area to remove the slabs, people began to realize maybe they won't care who lives out there.
If you're looking to escape mainstream society, like I was, to live in an area rich in trade and culture outside of any norm you can conceive of, Slab City might be the place for you. There's art everywhere, festivals, concerts, a library, a community of outsiders who mind their own business and care for and help one another.
And Coachella.
We don't talk about Coachella. All of that. That's evolution that took place between 1961 and now.
But those years between Camp Dunlap's establishment in 1951 and the sudden military pullout in 1961 are subject to debate.
Yeah, the military bails just as people turn the area into a resort town. Now, was this a logistical move, or were they trying to hide what they'd been up to? Was Slab City an artillery range? Or was the government hidden deep in the desert testing things that they didn't want anyone to know about, experimenting with things that were best left alone? Why would they clear out in such a hurry, and why wouldn't they tell anyone what they'd done? Was it too late at that point?
If you look closely, here's the evidence you'll find. The military laid an array of small antennae at specific points throughout the basin area. Now, those towers are long gone, but you can find evidence of small linear tracks surrounding the waters that linked those arrays.
People say they found remnants of cables running through the water. The less creative suggest those lines form a pentagram, but you don't need to make arcane symbols to do what the government did.
And what did they do?
I was hoping you could tell me. Seriously, though, I did speak to a diver who found evidence of dozens, hundreds of relays underneath the sea, leads and cables and antenna everywhere. But you won't see any of this unless you're standing right on top of it. And even if you do see, you won't know what you're looking at unless someone explained it to you. From far away, you just think they were regular radio antennas.
So were they receiving a signal, sending a signal, focusing energy into a specific point in the desert, or out of a specific point?
And that brings us back to now, to Dee and Sharon. See, there's a rumor that this array was built for a specific purpose, an attempt at spycraft or maybe even a superweapon. It was turned on once to disastrous effects.
It cracked the sky. That's what some people say.
Yeah, right above Bombay Beach.
And that's where they say it all started. So Bombay Beach is?
It's a little enclave, just a little southeast of the North Shore Yacht Club. Developers clearly had plans for this area, like in so many other areas around the sea. So you'll find grinded out blocks, street signs, and a lot of empty lots. But in Bombay Beach, people kind of hung on. You'll see some houses, trailers, barns, just a big mishmash of houses that used to go pretty close to the shore.
And then a flood came.
Yeah, the waters, they did rise. There was a bad flood in the area that took out a lot of the waterfront property and led to the creation of a big dirt wall, kind of like a containment strategy to keep the remaining houses in Bombay Beach safe.
But over the years, a lot of them fell into disrepair or just were completely abandoned.
It looks that way. For all I know, people could still own the lots and houses, but yeah, a lot of the places, they're just kind of hollowed out and you know who moves in.
Squatters?
Worse, artists. Almost every abandoned property in the area is covered inside with graffiti, paste-ups, artwork of all kinds. Now, in the years since Dee and Sharon first visited, there's become kind of a haven for artists. A lot of really cool installations have gone up, like an opera house made of flip-flops and a fake drive-in theater. But when they were there, it was all just kind of trespassing renegade stuff.
And it's there that they started to find these hidden messages like,
"You will hear her voice when you try to sleep."
So they were kind of enticed by one of the locals to go looking for the crack in the sky.
And that's where people start to fall into one of two camps. Were they unfortunate explorers caught up in some kind of cosmic event?
Or did someone slip them psychoactive drugs and set them loose in the desert?
I never bought that theory. I believe their story.
As do I. I mean, there's too much evidence showing they were fully lucid while they were exploring. I mean, let's play this last snippet. This is a clip from when they were just getting ready to drive out of Bombay Beach. And again, Dee has the recorder, and she's talking to Sharon. Or at least that's what her account said.
We love to play this clip for anyone we're just telling about the phenomenon because everyone hears a little differently.
Yes, we've run this through every piece of EVP equipment we can think of. Some people say they can hear a pattern under the static. Some people say it's a rolling sound like breathing, but others hear more of like a Morse code type pattern. So we'll leave it to you to decide. Dee and Sharon are standing on the shores above the flood wall. You'll hear wind, and then Dee speaks. But when Sharon responds, it's like the volume gets sucked out, and, well, you'll see.
Here we go.
It is colder here, right? I was sweating my ass off back at Salvation Mountain, but here I am freezing. It is freezing. Is it? You feel it too, right? Right. It is cold. Exactly. You ready to give this a shot? If you get bored, we can head back to the van, but I feel like now is the moment. Right now, we have to do this now.
Raymond, why do we have to leave? I don't understand it. You never tell me what it is that you're doing. Are you coming home? I'll tell everyone. Well, I don't care. Someone has to know. Come home. Please. Come home. Come home, please. Please. Come home.
You hear anything?
Still just static. I mean, there were a couple of pulses that you could almost say were waves. I don't know. But what I do know, listener, is that we're not done exploring out here. In our next episode, we're going to explore the Anzo Borrega lights and how they might tie into all this. In the meantime, you can read more about what happened here on our website.
And if you want to read more about Dee and Sharon, there's a full account of their story just released by author Michael Paul Gonzalez called Beneath the Salton Sea from Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing.
Sounds like a good read.
Get it anywhere books are sold. If you're in Southern California, go to the Salton Sea, make some recordings, and send them our way.
But don't say we didn't warn you about what might happen. We can unravel this together, but most importantly, Slab City Skies doesn't take liability for anything you might find or anything that finds you.
Stay careful out there, and we'll see you next week. Music was provided by Gordon Highland. Our cast, Michael Paul Gonzalez as Derek Lloyd, Brent Hand as the Stargazer, Rebecca Tripp as Dee, and Sarah Penn from the podcast Rapture 518, a show you absolutely should check out, as the ghostly voice of Doreen. You did hear a voice at the end, didn't you?